Hello, welcome back to Pursuing God's Heart Yourself, book of Titus, part 6. I'm really excited about this little paragraph we're going to look at. We always want to look wherever we are in the Bible and ask ourselves, what was the author trying to communicate? What was he trying to achieve by what he wrote? And we do that by looking at the details and seeing kind of how the person writing it wrote it. Like, what was he trying to get across to us? And a great little example of that, I suppose, is this section here in Titus 2. It's come after the 10 verses talking about the different age groups, men, women, and so on. This is, how you should be living. This is the outworking of the transformation. Now he gets into the explanation of the transformation in this latter part of the chapter. For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age, waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing of the glory of our great God and Saviour, Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness and to purify for himself a people for his own possession who are zealous for good works. Now, there's a lot going on here. Let me just flag a few details just to try to help us to see what's going on. One thing you'll notice when you look at a passage like this is where there's repetition of terms. So we've got two uses of this word appeared or appearing. The first one is the grace of God has appeared, and then the second one is waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing. So one's past, one's future. And they seem to be referring to the arrival or the appearing, the manifestation of Jesus. The word appearing, if you kind of look it up a little bit, do some research, it's a word that the Roman emperors were using in in this time for their own kind of impressive appearances. So they would hide away, and then on a certain day with a lot of fanfare and maybe some sort of special effects, they would appear and it would be impressive, and the response of the people was, this is a god. That was kind of what they were going for. Think of Gladiator, that scene where Commodus comes up through the floor of the Colosseum. It's kind of designed to get a reaction from the crowds. This is a god. Paul's using that word and saying, a god has appeared, Jesus. All right, let's use it in its proper context. And what he says here is the grace of God has appeared, referring to the first coming of Jesus, bringing salvation for all people. And what else has the grace of God appeared to do? Look at this one here, training us. The grace of God, that is Jesus' first coming, training us, and then he goes into some detail, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions. So that's the negative, get rid of that. And here's the positive, to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age. And so the grace of God appeared, first coming of Jesus, to bring salvation for everyone who's willing to accept it, and training us. The grace of God trains us to say no to some stuff and to say yes to other stuff, the kind of things that he's been describing in chapter 2, verses 1 to 10. And so that's all present age, right? That's where we are, saying no to this and living that, self-controlled, upright, and godly lives. And then he says, waiting. Not only are we living godly, but we're living waiting for our blessed hope. What is that? It's the appearing of the glory of our great God and Saviour, Jesus Christ. That's beautiful, isn't it? In fact, you can kind of look at how he's put this together. What is it that's going to come in the future? It's the appearing of the glory of Jesus Christ, described as our great God and Saviour, Jesus Christ. That's what he's saying. He's not saying God's coming and Jesus is coming. He's saying, no, Jesus is coming. That is our great God and Saviour. This is one of those places where the Bible calls Jesus God. It's explicitly there in the text. He's not referring to the appearings of two beings. He's referring to the appearing of the glory of Jesus Christ, who is our great God and Saviour. He goes on to tell us more. Remember that we're always looking for God. We're always looking for God's plan. Well, here's another little description of it. Jesus Christ, who gave himself for us to redeem us from all lawlessness, to purify for himself a people for his own possession. So just as up here in verse 12, we had the kind of negative and then the positive, and there's that transformation that the grace of God is bringing in our lives. Well, here we have the same thing, redeeming us from all lawlessness and to purify us for zealous for good works kind of righteousness. And so there's that transformation again, just like we've seen above. So there's so many little details in here, but what is it that Paul is really trying to communicate to Titus? He's really trying to encourage him. He's really trying to lift him, to say, look, this is what's happened in the past, the first appearing of the grace of God, and this is the future that we're looking forward to. And the combination of his first coming and his second coming bring about the transformation that I've just been explaining in the first part of the chapter. How are we to live up to all these instructions and commands? Fix our eyes on this truth. Get gripped by this reality. The more you look at this 4-verse paragraph here, the more God is working on the inside to bring out in your life the good stuff that he has intended for you. So look for the author's intent, look at the details, and allow it to do its work in your life.